I somehow feel very uncomfortable when you focus, primarily session on women.
Entrepreneurship used to be an alien word for them.
I was the only woman they had seen in Ultra.
Good evening. I know it's the last session and it's a bit delayed, but we promised to make it a lot of fun and very interesting. It's a real pleasure for me to participate in this discussion on a role that women entrepreneurs and leaders play in the innovation ecosystem. Being a woman entrepreneur myself, I do have a hands-on experience on how tough or good it can get. It's very encouraging to see that the innovation ecosystem that exists in this country today, it boasts of a very diverse presence of women leadership. It cuts across industry, academia, and government, and women have demonstrated exemplary qualities to be at the forefront of this continuously evolving and exciting ecosystem. They have, of course, brought to the milieu a dedication of purpose, commitment, doggedness, and above all, a willingness to quickly adapt to a rapidly changing environment. Our session today is going to focus on their key learnings and the understanding of the landscape, but more importantly, it is going to be about their advice to fellow women entrepreneurs and other stakeholders in the ecosystem. I'm going to start by asking Dr. Bindu Dey, Secretary, TDB, Government of India, to share her thoughts, please.
Good evening. Am I audible? Yeah, sure. In fact, I joined TDB about 2 months back, so I don't know much about this business, but I carry with me the experience of being in Department of Biotechnology for almost 23 years, funding R&D. I somehow feel very uncomfortable when you focus, primarily session on women. I think it should be uniform for everybody. But anyway, having done so, I would say at the leadership position, the current climate is extremely good. You have Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh. You have the Saraswati, Kali, and Durga. I would say you have Dr. Soumya Swaminathan, who's heading the biomedical portfolio. You have Dr. Renu Swarup, who's actually thinking to Bioreact and now has joined TDB. So there's a lot of scope for women. But when I look at my own trends in TDB as far as women are concerned, there are not many women who have been applying to the granting system. I realized one thing, that maybe there is a tendency to go towards softer options as far as women are concerned. They go more towards healthcare, water sanitation, and more towards agri-business kind of enterprises. They've done well. We have very good examples in the form of Dr. Kiran Majumdar-Shaw. We have Dr. Swati Piramal. We have Mahima Datla having taken over the family business very nicely, and they've shown how good they are if they take on. Yes, definitely women are to be encouraged, but let me tell you, it's a little difficult for women to get into this ecosystem. But once they get in, the management is into them, so then they perform very well. So I would say that yes, definitely we should encourage more and more women. And when women are in the policy making, they are the decision makers, we can have a lot of impact being felt at the ground reality. And that's briefly my experience, but as we go on and we have something more concrete to say amongst the discussion, I'll add on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, I have been in this area of innovation, entrepreneurship, incubation for last 15 years, and I completely echo with Dr.
I completely echo with what Dr. Bindu Dey has said, that what we perceive in science and technology area is gender neutral. So there were no special efforts or structured mechanism to actually pull women directly into the entrepreneurship activity,
because entrepreneurship activity itself is a highly challenging, and country like us, which is used to be traditionally risk averse. So you talk about men, and like they were in the social cultural fabric which we are living, it is always to look for the safer options, to look for a good job. So when we started about 15 years back, we thought we are really ahead of our times, because our main target group which we were focusing was educational institutes being the seedbed of new knowledge and ideas. And when we used to go and meet the top management or the director, entrepreneurship used to be an alien word for them. They used to say their job is only to impart education, create a set of professionals who are trained in science and technology area, but like why to instill that culture and why government is focusing. Then we used to give example of Western worlds like Silicon Valley, how Stanford has nurtured, how you can in UK you find Imperial College, and also we also align our students and academic community so that they also contribute towards the economic development process. But slowly, what in over 15 years I've seen, the culture is still is really evolving, because now we have new startup icons. So our Tatas and Birlas have been replaced by Bansals of Flipkart and Kunal Bhar of Snapdeal. So they are new role models. So and start with PM giving a special focus, Startup India as a new initiative, and shortly there will be startup policy which will be unveiled in this month only. So the necessary ground is being created, and we will see much more fillip to this startup activity in the country. So there's no doubt we have a talent, we have opportunities, we have potential. But what is missing? There are various pieces of ecosystem, which I would say first is our education, the kind of business acumen, skill set and knowledge which is required, which you won't find in the academic community. That is missing. Secondly, access to financing and support networks, where we have a major say, being a government department, and also creating a conducive environment in terms of policy interventions, enabling and providing conducive environment. And thirdly, which I have already talked about, the social and cultural fabric, is our family and community support towards entrepreneurship. So these are the critical factors for creating entrepreneurship development ecosystem in the country. So since we were lacking in entrepreneurship as a general, in a general sense, that ecosystem was not good enough, still evolving, and here we are discussing what is the percentage and role of women in startup. So this is something really to be discussed about in the real tech field. It's in single digits. We only hardly come across who are real women-led startups. It's hardly, you can say, 4 to 5%. So, are there any glass ceiling? Are there barriers for women entrepreneurs to enter into the startup journey, take this as an alternate career route? So, what are those? So, frankly speaking, we have not made any dedicated efforts to analyze the situation. Slowly, but we came across certain platforms we have partnered with. Last 2 years, we have been partnered with one of the platform which is known as Anita Borg Institute, which actually gives a platform for identifying viable business plan competitions led by only women. And what we feel, what women needs, 3 things: empower, mentorship, and inspiration. These are the things. Otherwise, we have to only provide the level playing field to them. It's only their merit, grit, and confidence which will take them forward. Nothing else is required. If the fortunately, we all represent a very progressive family. That's why we are here. So that kind of mindset, at least in metros and cities, we do find. So there is no difference between men and women all are being provided equal opportunities. So if we ensure level playing field to women who are passionate enough to take the startup route and like instill the right kind of skills, knowledge, mentor them properly, and and create some role models, because see, role models are going to inspire the others. It is peer-to-peer learning. If each successful woman-led startup takes the responsibility of inspiring at least 2-3 women startups, I think the message will be spread across. We don't need to be much more things. So it's that kind of effort, creating much more role models, mentorship programs for women-led, and equipping them with the right kind of knowledge and skills so that they can venture into their own ideas. Thank you.
Points that Dr. Day and Dr. Gupta have made. Going by your experience, it's a global innovation program. Do you see a lot of women tech entrepreneurs, and do you agree that all they need is a couple of mentors?
Let me just mention that I sort of run a global clean tech innovation program for UNIDO, and which is focused on energy efficiency in the manufacturing sector. So the program has been 3 years long. The participation of women is zilch, is zero. But that is not a reflection of any lack of innovative skills in women. It's just that the program is a subject which probably many women would find very dry to sort of dabble with. I attended a total quality management workshop in Gurgaon, which was organized for all female entrepreneurs. And you won't believe that a hall of this size, which is in front of me, it was jam-packed, and it was all possible colors you can see under the sun. And the first thing which I said was, this is the huge difference between how a male psyche and a female psyche works. Is that all possible colors, and there was chopping and there was so much noise that every time the organizer had to say that please settle down, please, because there was so much of life and energy in that environment, and they were all entrepreneurs. They were all handling apparel, herbals, cosmetic, sectors. But of course, I couldn't meet a single energy efficiency entrepreneur there, or a manufacturing entrepreneur. They were dabbling in herbals and cosmetics, doing manufacturing also in terms of because they were working on perfumes and hair oils and stuff like that. But the energy efficiency component was it was something like you even mentioned, and they're like, ma'am, this is not my subject, it's like just but there was so much of energy and enthusiasm in that room, which was full of innovators. So that is a challenge. See, what probably Dey ma'am has mentioned is that what you need to do is to have the level playing field, so that in case there are people, they should know where to go to and where to fund themselves from. But there are many sectors. I remember this is almost 3 decades back, when my best friend in college, she got her first job, and she was very excited because they mentioned travel to her. So after a year, when I asked her again that, did you travel? And she says, no, Amrit, they gave me a product which was salt. And it is supposed to be a feminine product. And nobody travels, people who are handling steel, cement, those are the sectors in which they travel more, and there's more, and salt is supposed to be a feminine product. And that was the first time in my life I came across this concept. There are, at that point of time, when you are just out of college, you find it obnoxious, that what sort of genderization of products is there. But in course of time, I think you understand that women have their own orientation in terms of what sector, what areas which excite them more than the men, one. And second is that you also realize that there is a work and a home balance which they need to find. So they will not get into full-fledged entrepreneurial work because that consumes too much of time. So that is how you would find in many cases where we have seen female entrepreneurs is also where they, it's more because of funding, that they have sort of a female face on the board or ownership which is there, of female ownership, because it's easier to access probably financing because you're a female and stuff like that. But for this particular session, I think I don't have much to contribute because my experience in the innovation ecosystem has not thrown me up against many female entrepreneurs because of the sector I'm handling. But that does not sort of speak anything about the innovative abilities of women. Thank you so much.
Amit, I was going to say life interferes too much, but I think what is important here is to bring in someone like Vibha Tripathi, who's probably from the private sector and more or less doing something very high tech. Vibha.
Yeah, so Amrit, you have met your first woman who's working on energy efficiency.
Yeah, that was surprising.
Yeah, so actually what I see, there are women in technology. I mean, it's a rare case. I came from IIT and IIT at my time had one hostel and women's hostel and 5 men's hostel, and women's hostel had only occupancy of like 120, and all the men's hostel had occupancy of like 700-800. So it's a fact of life. It doesn't start that, entrepreneurship is second level. First level, it starts women in technology is very few. And here you marry not only technology, you have to marry finance. So even if technology was a poor place, I think finance is even poorer. I very, very few women who are finance savvy. I mean, many of them can't even do Excel sheets. I'm sorry to say, but actually I have done a program for 10,000 women. And like you said, my batch was about 35 women, and they were absolutely amazing women. They were bubbling with energy and they had a lot of good ideas. But when there was one session on doing your accounts, and I'm little ashamed to say even myself, I was also quite poor in my accounting. But the fact is that women in finance is also a place where we do lack. I think if you, in your incubation, you should have extensive courses on accounts and financing for women as well as in technology. That would help a lot. Third thing about this livelihood, actually what I see is that women are somehow connected to earth so much more than men. And so whenever they always think of society and giving back to society. So somehow whenever they structure their programs, I find that they will always think of how to give back or do something which is relevant. This is because of I think this is their strength. This is the way they want to nurture, and somehow it translates into that. And I think it's also amazing, even given that limited space of time they have, they still manage to be very creative with the kind of skill sets they have, which is, I would not say is very high. I mean, there are many things that we can continue from women in technology to, girls in 12th grade not getting sufficient education in technology and all. So this is a much larger, it has very deep roots, this problem. So it needs to be tackled very patiently and
with time.
Yeah.
Anamika, you are someone else who's a rarity, who's also associated in a very high position with a company like Hitachi. What has your experience been like?
Can you hear me? Okay. Is this better?
Yeah, this is all right.
Hi, very good evening to you all. I know it's almost the end of the session, but definitely, I would like to bring about the global element of the whole scenario. Just about a month back, I was at Hong Kong University. By the way, I just cleared my master's in Women Director program. But what I want to really share with you is that, there I met 17 women. Anyway, it was an invitation program, so we had MDs and CEOs, women, who were from different multinationals like Accenture, Citibank, McKinsey, and the likes from different parts of the globe.
Now, I do want to bring out a common forum here that, there is a lot of synthesizing that, we want to have economies of balanced leadership, economies of, balanced skill sets that are, being discussed. As Anita and Bindu said, honestly, the word called women is a double entender, because actually if 99% of the spending globally is done by women, then it's better that the entrepreneurs like you, if you want to make a dent into the universe called the business proposition, then it's profitable for you to know how your actual consumer minds works and what works best for them. So if you're talking about leadership styles, I think the important part for any leadership would be to understand who's your target consumer, who's your target segment. And most important is also to understand what you want to sell. For example, now the leadership skill sets can be categorized into, I would say, 5 categories. I was hearing everybody, and I said let's categorize them. For example, there's a category of leadership called revolutionary leadership. Now, the likes of Mark Zuckerberg. Just think about it. He said there was a need of social connectivity, and he created something called Facebook. We all know about it, and we all love it. And do you know this industry grew from 0 to almost $100 billion in a span of, say, 10 to 20 years? So that's a great thing. So you need to be, as a leadership, devise where you're targeting. The other leadership is visionary. For example, Ratan Tata, the very Ratan Tata we have in India. For 100 years, the Tata is working, and it's going strong even today. That's being visionary. You're able to, kind of re-emerge yourself, reinvent yourself every 5 years and make a sustainable growth plan. Be part of the government advocacies, create niche where it didn't exist, work on the demand-supply gap. So that's visionary. Innovative. Let's think about somebody called Steve Jobs. That's what comes to my mind. And that's a leadership skill set which is very rare. Let me tell you, what is that? It's an oomph value. What's oomph value? All of us love to buy this equipment, which is 10 times sometimes more than what you get in a normal Android phone. Why we want it? Because everybody, the oomph value of carrying an Apple phone is so important. I'm sure many of you have it in your hands. So that's the business area you want to. So target your area. If you really want to be a leader, you should be clear where you're targeting, because everything changes there. The last is compassionate, because I'm sure each one of us sitting here, when we talk about startups, we are trying to give back to the society, the NGO part, which is becoming very important. Small and medium enterprises need that. So effectively, what I'm trying to say, the leadership styles have to be a mix of all these sometimes. You can be revolutionary, visionary, innovative, and compassionate, because the part is that, if you want to have a sustainable business model, then it's important that you inculcate in yourself. By the way, I want to give you a couple of statistics that even today, when people talk about having more women on the board, I'm sorry, the statistics are not going the correct way. And let me also add to it, multinationals like mine today are championing the cause of diversity. But that doesn't mean that we are going to talk about women. I would say the skill set needs it. If you have a board of directors, if you do not have a multiplexing kind of a brain that women get to the table, then you're missing it. So the point is, leadership is having equality, having the right mix, and having the talent pool so that you can beat your competition, which is most of the times missing.
The industry I'm from, media, we actually prefer women, and women really do very well. But when you start your own business, the challenges, whether it's funding, whether it is about getting talent, it's all the same whether you're a man or a woman. So do you think it is very important to actually identify women and try and support them? Dr. Day?
I just can I say something which is coming into my mind? Because I feel that when we have sessions like that, I would like to convey which would have something in your mind which is a priori, that is the outcome that you expect out of that, instead of going just haywire and asking questions in a direction where ultimately it's very difficult to pull the thought process. I would say, when I look at my organization and I bring in my 23 years of experience in DBT, where I was doing extremely well in diagnostics, vaccine, and other sectors, there are spaces where women will come automatically. There's a very small percentage of women who are born, entrepreneurs, and they'll come automatically. You don't have to create, lectures and, sessions for them. But as head of the organization, when I look at my statistics, which is a reality in Indian context, and I don't see women coming in front, I would like to see spaces where I can create. And definitely there is social enterprise space where I see. I would say, how many can produce a market so that sepsis is less in children? How many can produce something which is compensated in maternal nutrition, or which can provide a lot of help at the time of delivery, or pre-delivery, post-delivery. Those spaces are very strong spaces, people have not, but there are a lot of spaces. Look at the example of Lijjat Papad. I have, even if best of Amritsari Papad is available, I still go and buy Lijjat. Space was created, though it is low hanging, low tech, but the way it has captured the market. So sitting in my organization, I am currently looking for those spaces where I go and I spend my time on women entrepreneurs who are very close to reality and who can make difference maybe in large volume. And second point is in certain places government is the biggest buyer. State government is the biggest buyer. And why, don't call me pessimistic, but why Tatas and Birlas have done traditionally well, because government buys best maximum from them and others have to struggle. So we have to break that niche, that if somebody is doing something in that sector, they have access to the state government market, they have access to the central government market. And those are the places which are challenges for me. And I'll work towards that, maybe irrespective of sex, whether it is for women, but primarily for women. That is all I have to say.
Dr. Dey, would you like to add to what the government can do, particularly maybe if, like what Amit is saying, that there are certain areas where women like to become an entrepreneur or invest or do business, should that be pushed a little bit more? Dr. Gupta, would you like to take that?
See, MSME, which is actually the nodal body for supporting such kind of women-led entrepreneurship activity, which is traditionally like extension of their hobbies or passion, there are a host of schemes already available. I don't think so we need to evolve a new scheme or a new program for that. There's a credit scheme, and there are a lot of subsidy schemes available. There's a Mahila Bank also in place, especially. So in terms of intentions, government intentions are right. The way it is implemented, is it reaching the target audience, which is so it's an implementation bottleneck. Sometimes intentions of the government is always right. Where we lack is the implementation, execution strategy, and gauge its impact, document it. So these are the certain areas where we need to really work on.
So more implementation than any new schemes. Amrit, from the global practices, is there anything that we can adopt, or is there anything that should particularly be just for India, where women entrepreneurs in tech is concerned?
Let me just share, because you asked me earlier, which I think I forgot to touch, was the experience of the Global Clean Tech Innovation Program. I had just attended the 10 years of Clean Tech Open in US last week. And again, I think we could count 3 female entrepreneurs there who were winners. And from the 6 developing countries from where we had participation in the program, we had a lot of female faces who were accompanying their husbands. So again, what I'm re-emphasizing is that there are areas where women probably don't sort of see too much of interest. But the ones who are there are as good or as bad as anybody else in the field. And we have to recognize that difference. The level playing field is everybody's right, but like it is said that you always have to project the leaders, and therefore I think the onus does fall on the government to some extent to sort of create a hype against successful cases. It's not you being sort of going against the other gender in terms of not giving them a level playing field, but it's just that if you need to motivate a whole lot of people who've not been in the field, they should know that there's possibility and there's scope, and that is more in the context of the social fabric of the country, that you need to promote them because they have not been outside their homes, in the traditional system. So that is the reason you need to project. But in the clean tech space, generally you don't see many women, but I'm sure that we have also not gone ahead and really searched for them, to see how they respond.
Vibha, did you find any kind of this glass ceiling or any issues? And secondly, as a very unusual person in a very unusual sector, what more would you want to see? How would you like, what kind of support would you need for your business?
My area, you're referring to her in terms of technology.
In terms of, no, you as an entrepreneur.
So what change I would like to see? From my other sisters, what I would say is, one thing is women always have to maintain their family. So that is a harsh truth. I mean, you cannot circumvent it. So access to finance becomes a major problem because many women have a small business plan and they depend on their husbands and fathers to give things like security. And that security, then the land being the primary security for starting a business, that almost always belongs to the husband, because that's the traditional way the land goes from father to son. So women don't have only apart from their jewelry, which may not be much, they do not have any access to finance, and they may be so that I see becomes a huge challenge for women to raise funds, and which really stops them many times. And also, if you go to the banks, you would find the kind of languages or the kind of paperwork which needs to be done is very tedious, and most women get discouraged. So they end up only doing whatever smallest thing they can do. And if from my level where I am, the other problem which happens is that as of now, government is supporting a lot of entrepreneurs to start up. And there's the definition of startup is 30 lakhs to 50 lakhs. This is their, the end. And then if somebody is not in IT space, 30 lakhs is really what they will earn in, a year. So this becomes then an issue again, because it is very difficult from moving on from the first level. I mean, I'm happy to say that now the ecosystem is in place for actually at least to reach that level.
Right.
But again, the second level, you again start needing the same security, same questions come. So I find that most of the women get defeated there, and they are not able to move to the next level. And more often than not, they will not have the support, that kind of support from their male members. So since my gender is not very well represented, I can talk to the men that women do need a lot of support, and they don't like to disturb their households in general, but that is the main reason why they don't move into these areas. I think that's my.
Anamika, I'm going to come, whether it was Mark Zuckerberg or Steve Jobs, they were all male. But you do have a Padma Shri warrior as well, and you still have this debate even in Silicon Valley about there not being enough women in technology, so it's not just our country. But do you feel in the last few years things have changed and improved?
Shireen, I definitely feel things have changed and improved. Here I'm very proud to be an Indian because while globally I think, let's look at America, still struggling to have a woman president. India had it long back, our prime minister as women. So yes, I do agree that we have examples like this, and but the steps and leaps forward that are required. Now I gave examples of Steve Jobs, then let's talk about Marissa Mayer, and there are so many of women who are being, I would say IBM is headed by, Yahoo has a woman.
Marissa Mayer.
And then
HP
also has a woman. And actually globally people are trying to advocate women, but the most important part is at home also in India, women are being promoted. I think the government has come up with a policy. I do not know how successful it's going to be, but at least to have a woman on board. So things are changing, the answer is yes, but are they changing as fast as we would like to have them? I think the answer is no, because as usual Indians find loopholes. For example, I'll be very honest to say in this August gathering that number of women on the board, I'm sorry to say, are there, but they are maybe the wives or the relatives. So where are the real talent pool, really getting their pride of place? And that's the question I think we should ask ourselves. Are they enough available in the country? The answer is yes. I'm so amazed to see that whenever I go globally, I see many Indian women on the top. Now that's a good, incredible thing. I was speaking to somebody in Schneider, and their chief CFO, finance officer in Hong Kong is a woman. Now same goes when you look at Siemens. Siemens is adapting women in Europe. The point is, in India, back home, are we able to really put them on? We can talk about likes of Chandra Kochur, we can talk about the biochem lady, but then the sincere effort to show role models somewhere at the mid-level is missing, and that's where I think the work needs to be done. You have it on the top, you have it in the bottom. Vibha was so true when she talked about work-life balance, but I'm sorry, that's where I think the attitude should change, and that's what I was talking. There is a difference between whining and challenging. And we need to understand the difference. Please challenge yourselves. Because if a man leaves home and goes to work, why can't a woman do the same? And that's all in between you. So I think that leap of faith the women have to take. So that soul searching, soul correction, and taking the leap is in our minds. So this is another change. I think if we do it, we'll make all the difference.
I think Indian women should also take heart from the fact that Marissa Mayer, who's so beleaguered at the moment as head of Yahoo, when she took over, everybody praised her for the fact that she came back to work right after she had a baby. And now you have Zuckerberg, who's taking 90 days leave because he's had a baby, and everybody's praising that too because he's taken paternity leave. So I think we're okay where we are right now. But in closing comments, all I'd like to say, I think the representation from the government is saying that we've got a lot of policies in place, we've got a lot of elements in place, we just need it to kind of reach the women entrepreneurs. And I think Amit is wishing for more women in non-sexy sectors like clean tech, and I'm sure that is going to happen soon. Thank you very much, all of you. Yes, please, you have a question?
Yes, I have a question. The question is to all women first, is that when the child is born, everyone gets a present, a Barbie doll for a girl and a car for a boy. I think that's where you should switch the technology impetus in a child, right from technology comes there. Or else they end up nurturing babies and somebody's producing.
I'm sorry. But what's wrong in that? You can't change the biological nature of people. You have to accept it with grace.
Technology.
It doesn't matter. Even you can't change it. Even if you give the girl an engine, she might look and go for soft things.
If you want to really tell technology, it's related to engine.
Yeah.
And when you say engine, generally a child is given first as a car. You don't do that with a girl child. You'll give Barbie doll. So if you give an engine, she starts opening and then she starts seeing inside it. We do not induce the technological aspect right from the first focus point.
Yeah, I
That's what
agree
I'm
with
trying to
him
drive. I'm not
actually.
saying that is the reason.
Truth of the matter, I do
If
agree.
given a choice, generally a boy will give it and girl at all. So that's where it starts. I'm saying genesis. It's my way of just putting my thought.
Sir, I want to share with you something very important. I will not agree with you because for the simple reason I'm an engineer, and I remember my dad at the very age of 2 telling me I'll become an engineer. I didn't know how to pronounce engineer, so I just said I'm going to become an engine. And that's it. So times have changed, and I'm talking way back in 72 when these discussions were going on. So the genesis have started, and all the women that I met in different forums are looking at technology in a different way. I do agree that if you talk about masses, yes, the leap is there. But why not? We have to budget children. What's wrong with that? Because that's an important ownership. But you know, adopting technology, I think each one of us is adopting technology. Everybody has a mobile phone. Nowadays, women are more internet savvy than you know the rest of the men can think of. You look at women in the IT segment. There are more women that you would find. So I really don't agree with you. The bias may be there, but it's not so prevalent.
Madam, I am not saying you to agree. I may disagree with you and you may disagree with me. How many mechanics are there, women? I'm saying technology doesn't relate to only networking. It's about art.
See some sort of a reservation for women to boost as one incentive. In our own program, I'm confessing in our own program like Indian Ocean Growth Program or William Alliance or DRDO, we should consider women's reservation in our awardees. Anita ji is here.
No, the reservation is debatable. I do see. Even if we want to have a diverse set of incubators in an incubator, we would definitely give. But like reserving, I think it needs to be debated.
It's only incentive. What I'm saying, the government should consider giving encouragement.
Which is required.
I think, Mr. Saxena, even though you are advocating my cause, but I would just say that I think more access to information about what is available to a woman entrepreneur would really help, even if there isn't reservation. I think Vibha would second me on this. If there is, like she said, if there is only 30 to 50 lakhs available and then you don't know how to scale and there isn't that access or that mentorship available, I think that's where we all kind of, you know, find it difficult. Please.
Engineers come and I conducted program, 5 days program. So I and my all colleagues, 2 colleagues are women. So when we saw the audience, then we saw all of them engineers.
But unfortunately, none of you is entrepreneur or the floor of a entrepreneur. That would have been, and the other are the impediments in their being success.
So, I'm an entrepreneur. I've been one for 5 years, and I think the point I was trying to make is that the challenges that I face is the same as a male entrepreneur would face. I don't see any difference in that. Secondly, even when I was trying to put some thoughts together, I just couldn't get around to saying women entrepreneur, because for me, an entrepreneur is an entrepreneur is an entrepreneur. The life is as tough. The challenges are the same. The ups and downs are exactly the same. Yes, I will concede that there are certain board meetings where a thought comes easier. You know, some board members like it better if it comes from the male member. And the point Anamika made is a very valid point. Government has spoken about how it's mandatory now for women directors to be on the board, and that is the only reason we are being put on various boards. That's a challenge. But as an entrepreneur, believe me, it's the same. I face the same problems as anybody else does. Yes, there are certain vendors who will want to speak to a male in the office. There are certain clients who feel more comfortable, but I think that's more of a personality thing rather than a gender thing. I really don't see it as an issue at all. I personally don't like the bracketing at all. But yes, as an ecosystem, you know, Prime Minister Modi is talking a lot about Make in India and all of that, but on the ground level, I'm sorry to say, the ecosystem is still very difficult. I have an office in Noida, and when 24 hours there is no power and my entire team is running around getting the generator, we are 24/7 because we are a news agency. That, if it's taking up the entire time of my top management, for me that is so unproductive. But that doesn't really have anything to do with me being a woman entrepreneur. I just feel that the ecosystem, and I'm from the media so I'm partly to blame, we make such a big deal about the Snapdeals and the Flipkarts of this world, and you know how we are whatever. So they were the flavor of the season for all of us for a year and a half. And today, everything they do is wrong. They're not making money. They're swindling the investors. So we kind of go on this trajectory. But at the ground level, is there someone to mentor me? You know, Mr. Saxena mentioned a couple of people. But I came across those people because I was from the media, so I had a little bit of an advantage. The average entrepreneur does not have that advantage. That Silicon Valley thing of, you know, making a call. Steve Jobs has said, hey, if you want some help, just make a phone call. Believe me, I've tried it. And the only person I succeeded with was someone who had worked at Amazon for 9 years, and he had just come in, and he's the CTO of Micromax. He's now on my board, Mr. Ashish Agarwal. And he just said, yeah, sure, whatever you say, I'll do it. I spoke to another one who was an ex-CTO of one of the biggest e-commerce companies, and he took 3 weeks to meet me, just to show the fact that, hey, so this whole collaborative atmosphere that we talk about, that we need in this ecosystem, not really there. And I think that's where the discussion needs to be, that what do we people face, you know, being entrepreneurs, it's not easy. This is the first time that we are introduced with this session, and would like to invite Mr. Nirkar Saxena to present the mementos to the distinguished panelists.
Thank you.
I somehow feel very uncomfortable when you focus, primarily session on women. Entrepreneurship used to be an alien word for them. I was the only woman there.